Good morning, everyone. My name is Judy Blake, and I am the Leadership and Advocacy Coordinator for Family to Family Network. We are here in Houston, Texas. It is Saturday, March 13th, and we are so happy to be having session 2 of our Asian American Outreach Program. One of the many things that I love about Family to Family Network is we believe in collaborating with other organizations. So this is being brought to you by Family to Family Network. However, it is in collaboration with Lone Star Lend. And Lend is a graduate training program to create future leaders in the field of advocacy for people with autism and neurodevelopmental disabilities. One of our star trainees, Hazel Go, who's going to unmute herself. She is conducting a service learning project, and she wanted to reach out to her community. So I thought this was a fabulous collaboration, and I gave her the names of some excellent presenters, one of who you're going to be hearing from shortly. And we are very, very excited to have session 2. We thank you all for joining us. Hazel?
Thank you everyone for joining us this morning. So we have fabulous Robin here with us to present today. Robin has been directly involved with education for the last 34 years, and she's spoken in both public and she's taught in both public and private school settings. She's also currently the founder of Lighthouse Learning Resources, and she's also a certified teacher. So we're gonna just hear from her today. If you have any questions for her, feel free to type it in the chat. We'll talk about it at the end of everything. So just hold on to that. I just wanted to say for the people who have attended the first panel 2 weeks ago, I know we said we'll get you the translations. It's on the way. Just please be patient with us. We are still working on getting the summary and translations to you. Hopefully we'll be able to send it to you within the next week. This talk as well, we would summarize it after it's done. And we will also be summarizing that and translating it. And hopefully we'll send it to you within the next 2 to 3 weeks, but just be patient with us, but it will come. Thank you so much. Yeah, once again, if there's any questions, just type it in the chat and we'll address it at the end. If anything else, you can always message Judy and I. And let me pass the torch to Robin.
Also, too, we will be sending you the slides, Robin's slides. You will have them. So just know that we will be sending them to you next week. We just want you to focus on what she's saying right now, but we will be sending you the slides.
Good morning, everyone. I am thrilled to be invited by both Family to Family and Hazel Lend through the Lend program. It's really an honor to be here. We're going to talk about the law a little bit and how in the United States of America, everyone has a right to education. And that includes your child, and you and your child are very important. And our country is very fortunate that we are multicultural, and I'm just thrilled to be part of this team. I really am. And don't hesitate for any questions. There is not a question that is stupid. Some people say, oh, it's a stupid question. There's nothing like that. This is all very overwhelming. Another thing is I have cats, and occasionally you'll see one jump up on my chair, but just look past that. Okay.
We love our furry friends. Robin, real quick, for the person who's on a cell phone, if you could please mute yourself, that would be great, so we don't hear any background noise.
When I'm not speaking?
No.
The person with the cell phone.
Yep, cell phone. Yep.
Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to share my screen. We'll get started. Hi, Usha.
Hi, Usha.
All right.
Hi.
All right. And just go ahead and feel free to ask questions in the chat box. I'm going to share a lot of information with you. It will be overwhelming, the information. If you have questions for me, my email's on the slides. You can email me. I'm here to help you guide your child.
Okay, Robin.
So we're going to talk about,
Robin,
yes, ma'am.
Excuse me for interrupting again.
Yes.
Please forgive me. So what we see on your screen are two like gray blocks that are blocking out part of your information. And the reason for that is because you're probably seeing us on the side, like the speaker view. Have you changed to slideshow? You have. Can you see if you can move
What do you mean,
those? Yeah, right
change
where
the
your cursor is.
slideshow?
Perfect. That helps. Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
It
Okay,
made it
I just
smaller.
minimized everybody's picture. Is that all right?
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
So, sure. Two ways to get services through education. One is IDEA, Individuals with Disability Education Act. That is a federal law. Federal law mandates what we are supposed to do in the school campus. There are 13 categories that we consider for special education services. So there's the education federal law, and then the federal mandates what we should do. The state takes that mandate and they have to interpret it, and they have some autonomy, meaning they're able to interpret the law in the way they feel it best fits their state. So like in the state of Texas, we are close to Mexico, so we have a large Hispanic population as well. So we can mandate for the school districts to be, fully include for English as a second language learner, which your children may be accessing as well. The other way to get service is through a 504 plan. That is not an education law, but it is also a federal law, and it's a civil rights law that says you cannot discriminate against an individual based on their disability. Those are the two ways to get service. Under the 13 categories, you have OHI, and a lot of people don't really understand what that means, but it is kind of like a catch-all or an umbrella term for many different disabilities that need to have services, such as ADHD, okay? And ADHD requires a medical doctor to support the diagnosis. I am a firm believer from my own experience that you should always have your child's hearing and vision checked by MDs, by professionals. Let me tell you why. I am 63, and in my late 50s, I had a sound booth hearing test because I thought I had auditory processing disorder. And it turned out for my whole life, I am hearing impaired and never knew it. And it did affect my learning. Vision. There is so much information about the vision of children. And so going to a specialist that specializes in even learning disabilities. I often send my families to Dr. Catherine West. She is phenomenal and helps with understanding even dyslexia. Please make sure your child's hearing and vision are checked. All right. When you're working with your child, we want your child to reach adulthood prepared. There are so many times that I'm working with a family and a child, and the child has no idea of what is really going on with their learning. We call that demystify. So I always suggest for your child to meet your child's needs is demystify. Sit down, talk with your child about their learning difference. Everybody has a difference. Everybody does. They need to learn to embrace their difference. And it's the more they know about their difference, the more empowered they feel. If they have autism, share autism. If they have Down syndrome, share Down syndrome. My youngest daughter has dyslexia. So when she was early in second grade, and she was a May birthday, so she had just turned 6, I taught her about the dyslexia that she has. It's in the left side of the brain. I showed her MRIs. So she was fully aware. And that is how you help a child have self-awareness. In order to manage in the world around you, we all need self-awareness. What are we doing? How are we standing? How are we talking with someone? Are we sharing a conversation? All of those things. So when you just demystify, enlighten that child about who they are, embrace them, they then can take on the regulation for self-awareness. So they have to have self-awareness in order to be part of the world. We all do it. One of the things that is most difficult for all of us, except for my husband, he's very perfect at this, but is executive functioning. The parts of the brain, many different parts of the brain that function together, but the frontal lobe, specifically the prefrontal cortex of the brain, is where executive functioning develops and is housed, if you will. That does not fully develop in a human being until around age 25 or 26. That's why we see an increase in impulsivity in teenagers who are changing, maturation-wise, and they're doing impulsive things because executive functioning hasn't fully developed to help them inhibit some of the decisions they're making. So let your child know that even though they're trying to stay organized or remember things, that their executive functioning part of the brain is not fully developed. That doesn't excuse a child for not learning skills to help function through the day, but it does give them a reasons why they make those mistakes. And you don't want those mistakes to feel like they're doing something wrong and they're bad people. So, and then with executive functioning, if you have any other neurological or genetic difference, sometimes it takes even longer for that area of the brain to develop. We're going to talk a lot about sensory processing today. Not many know about it, but sensory process is a complete system in the body, and it is really how we learn about our environment. It's the noise, the smells, the lighting, touch, all of that, and we're going to learn about several others. So sensory processing, watch your child for signs that they may be affected by things in their environment, because it's those you can learn, those areas that affect a child. You can sit down with your child and say, this is a challenge for you, how can we help you manage? Also remember processing speed. Typically, most people have slower processing speed. So when I talk with an individual with a difference, I am speaking much slower. I allow them time to think about what I'm saying before I talk really fast. Because if I talk really fast, they miss much of what I've said. And then I become frustrated. So I want to do it slowly. Also, and that example I shared with you is chunking. We talk about chunking as an accommodation in even written work or math assignments or whatever, but chunking also is how we deliver information to a child that has different learning style. You want to chunk what you say, let it process. The biggest thing here on this list is, for your child's sake, to access the big world, allow for wait time and teach your child that your child processes a little slower, possibly, or even some that process faster, but you share with your child that that child needs to learn to self-advocate for wait time. So what I mean by that is often I will work with students and ask the student or the child a question, and the parents will be there, and the parents jump in and answer for the kid. That takes away a tremendous amount of social learning and cognitive learning. We should allow our children to answer all questions. We have to wait for them. They will answer, but we've got to give them the time to do that. All right. Another thing that you should work with, that I suggest you should work with for your child, is an amazing piece of information. And this helps with self-awareness and demystifying what their needs are. I have asked older children and even younger children, what accommodations do you get in school? They do not know what I'm asking. So you should share with your child what the accommodations are. You should share with your child what's on the IEP. We as adults have meetings about a child. You go to the doctor and the doctor puts the child on medication. and the child has no idea what's going on. The way they will interpret that is something must really be wrong with me. Everybody talks and meets about me. I can't learn like others, so I must be broken. We don't want children to have that kind of feeling about themselves. The way they are is perfect. Everyone has to be different. So, and that makes the world better. The one-page profile allows you to facilitate. Do not do it for your child. Your child should do this. Just sit down with your child, go over the IEP, talk about the accommodations and modifications, have them create this one sheet of paper about who they are, and let them choose a picture that they really like of themselves. And in that, they're going to put their name, and they can put how old they are. And many times we don't ask these kids these questions. And then you put things that you like, things that I don't like. You can put in there, I need wait time. My processing speed is slow. So you can add into the one-page profile all the information about your child, let your child do it, and the child walks away feeling empowered. I know who I am. And so then have your child email it. Use your email if they have to, or let them have their own email. You have to be careful of that though. But email the one-page profile to all of the teachers: PE, art, music, world history, math, science, everyone. As a teacher, when we get something like this, we are thrilled. This to me says this child is learning about him or herself, and this is what we want. You've got 2 links on this page to show you how to do that. So the next thing we have to talk about is we have to think about the caregiver or the parent. I am the sibling of Laura Lorraine Rettie, and my company is named after her, Lighthouse Learning Resources, LLR. She did not make it. Her life was different. She was born a long time ago, and she died in an institute in 1969. I watched my mother struggle alone. Laurie couldn't even go to school because the law didn't guarantee the rights to education at that time. So my mother struggled, and she did have some medical situations later in her life. So I'm begging you to take care of yourself first. That is a hard thing to do. If it's just 10 minutes a day where you go in the bathroom and close the door, turn the lights out and light a candle and meditate or pray, whatever you feel you need to do, hang on to your faith and take that time for yourself. The better you feel and the more you feel connected to yourself, the better parent you're going to be. Try to keep positive energy. We often have negative self-talk. For every one negative comment you make about yourself, you've got to say 4 positives about yourself. You've got to train your brain to be so proud of yourself for what you're doing. Don't concentrate on what you didn't get done for your child that day. We're residual, humans are residual. Your child is doing fine. Keep that positive energy and harmony. Family to Family does a great training on person-centered and person-centered planning, and it is phenomenal. It helps you look at the gifts your child has. Your child is designed perfectly. Even those who are nonverbal, who cannot walk, designed perfectly, and they belong, and they have gifts. I'll give you one example. Sean Pevsner. He is a Dallas special education lawyer, and he was born with cerebral palsy. He does not walk, he's non-ambulatory, and he does not speak. But he does litigation in court for children with special needs. His mother believed in him and she pushed him, and everybody thought he was intellectually disabled. He passed the bar exam. So find what gift your child has and focus in on that. All right, and then take time for yourself. Be gentle to your soul. Okay, let's look at the sensory. The central nervous system in our body, it is the largest nervous system we have. And then there's little nerves extending from it. The sensory systems, we have 8. And those little nerves, when I touch something, that's the sense of touch. It sends a message all the way through the central nervous system, and it registers in my brain. And then I'm going to respond to that touch in the manner that I should. Where it ends up landing when we're overwhelmed is in the limbic system. And we'll get into that a little bit so you help understand why some children have a meltdown, why some children don't want to be touched, all of that. You're familiar with hearing, taste, touch, smell, and sight. Everything I'm sharing here, you should share with your child. Your child should know about their sensory system. And so the other 3 areas that we're not so familiar with are vestibular, which is the need for movement. I have a high need for movement, and that's an inner ear nerve called the vestibular. And it helps support the body with balance. I need to move. I can only sit so long, or then my leg will start bouncing. I like to move, and it helps calm me. And so this is what's happening with the child. Proprioception is where information might be something that's bothering me, and the way I can get calm is to have a big hug. Okay, or someone massage my hand. So proprioception is passed through neurologically through the brain, down through the brainstem, and through the joints and tendons in our body, and we respond. Sometimes that information from the brain down to the body is not running on a smooth path. That we don't know about. We don't know why that happens. But this can affect handwriting. It can affect knowing where your body is in space. You might look clumsy. You can get in trouble for being clumsy. And if I go to an art meeting with a family and I see somewhere where it says falling out of the chair, bumps into friends, getting in trouble, sent to the office, I stop that immediately and say, he needs an occupational therapy evaluation, OT, for his sensory system. Because proprioception, not knowing where your body is a frightening feeling. Imagine late at night, you've got to walk down the stairs and there are no lights. You don't know where your body is. The first thing you do is you're going to grab onto the railing or the wall to help guide you. Often we see kids who are touching their friend in line or stomping their feet or touching the wall as they walk because they don't know where their body is in space, yet they'll get in trouble for it. Interoception is incredibly important. It's the system in our body that tells us something's wrong. Oh, my stomach hurts. I don't feel well. So I'll make a plan to possibly go to the restroom to see if I'm going to get sick. Or we have, it's so critical in some cases where some children have a broken limb and they don't know it. For whatever reason, that information is not getting to the body through the central nervous system. And so it's critically important, the role that interoception plays in the life of a child. It helps with the limbic system, and you're going to see in a minute how we can look at that. Here's the limbic system. We go from the sensory to emotions and the behavior. Every human being learns through emotional challenges or channels. We are emotional people, positive, negative. That's just how we store things in memory. It's how we respond to our environment. So the area that is most significant in the limbic system, and some people say the limbic system has other elements in it, but for our purpose, we're going to stick with just this. The amygdala, they're 2 small almond-shaped elements in the brain, one on each side of the hemisphere. And so that is a very primitive part of the brain. It's been around since the beginning of human beings. It is our fight, flight, or freeze response. And so when something in the environment is triggering us, it sends a message to the brain, and the amygdala might respond with a meltdown. So let's do an example. So a child is continually, and I've had this actually happen, a child is continually touching his friends in line, touching the walls, stomping feet, and such. He continues to get in trouble. That sends a message to the amygdala, I'm in trouble, and he doesn't know what to do. After weeks of getting in trouble and being sent to the office, he has a full meltdown. So the amygdala, which was too much insult to that emotional part of the brain, so the amygdala sent a message to his response system that he was in trouble and he just could not do it anymore, and he had a full meltdown. We brought in the occupational therapist, and that therapist helped the child and the teacher understanding what to do. All we had to do was put a backpack on him with a book in it, and it gave him the weighted system he needed to help find where his body is. Now, I do another training where I fully go into the limbic system, and there's so much to learn about it that I can just give you only a little bit right now. I did add to the slides information so that you can look up some of these other elements and look at what they do and how it works together. And do it with your child. It's so important that your child understand this. It is okay for a child to say, today I am overwhelmed. My amygdala is there challenging me and I just feel like crying. And then what I do when I work with children is we have a plan what you can do when you're feeling that way. And what we do is we create a safe place. You can create a safe place in the home. It's at their bedroom is fine, where you attend to the 5 senses. You have low lighting, so the visual is reduced, no noise, less visual stimulation on the walls. And classrooms should not have a lot of visual stimulation on the walls. And then you allow the child to take deep breaths. This changes the brain chemistry. There's a lot that goes on. Drink water, chew some hard candy, all that helps the brain calm. The reason I share all this with you is because your child needs to learn this at any age. It's not too late if you have a 25-year-old, it's not too late. But your child will apply these skills in adulthood and can apply them. I apply them every day. I have anxiety and I do breathing and I do meditation to help myself get through moments. And I know that it's my amygdalas that are sending a signal to me. But I can tell myself, you're okay. So your child can do this. I did work for Monarch for 5 years as the employability director. And we applied the sensory systems to all workplace. We planned, the individuals knew about their sensory system. We planned a response to what they could do if they were having an anxiety attack. And they could share it with their boss if they wanted to. And the employment rate really increased. So that's why I'm sharing this with you now, because it helps with life. And then we're looking at social. You have to work with your child on some of that social. You get an IEP that says everything that's going on at school. A lot of what you're getting, you should be doing with your child at home every day. So be friends with the speech pathologist or the person that's teaching some social skills. Know that social skills need to be explicit. You have to understand that many of our children have a little bit of challenge in this area. Some are too friendly and in somebody's space. That's a sensory system. They have to be taught boundaries. Some are not social at all, don't practice the greetings. So how do you do that? Do a social story. And this is all, you'll see this comes up, but you can look this up. Create pictures with your child showing what they can do. Take a picture, show what they can do. They remember what they can do. as much as possible, inclusive learning. I really am a promoter of inclusion, and it's getting harder. And I'm not sure what's going on, but you've got to try to help your child get in there. The leading psychologist in that from long ago is not living anymore, Albert Bandura, and the modeled behavior. If we don't know how to model our behavior or know what behavior should look like, then we might take on the wrong behavior. Facilitate community interaction. So if your child has an interest in animals, go volunteer at an animal shelter. If your child has an interest in, there's so many different things, newspapers, looking at newspapers. How about go and volunteer at a community newspaper? Find ways to get your child out there and use social stories to help your child understand what's going on. Remember to demystify. Socially, people can not understand you if you're not saying hi. That's not that they don't like you, it's that they want you to say hi. So let's learn to say hi and bye. Have a high expectation. Sorry, my cat is. Have a high expectation, and do not talk for your child. Once again, look up Temple Grandin. She will share with you in this this link here. You'll read about how she believes in much of what I'm sharing. And she is a prime example of how her mother kept pushing her and kept pushing her. All right, let's go to the next one. So as we know, the purpose of IDEA is to truly guarantee the rights of all children to reach adulthood prepared for post-secondary education, employment, and independent living. So while you're working with your child through the years, you're going to constantly keep that in your mind, even as an adult. You can start some of this. I know some of it, I've worked with adults, very challenging for those who've have established patterns of being socially isolated. I understand that. And don't beat yourself up for that. Try things slowly and encourage your child to get out more. It takes a lot on you, and I know that. So in order to help create that self-reliance, because your child has to learn to take care of him or herself. Which that's just the way life is. So let mistakes happen. It is okay when your child makes a mistake. It is okay when you make a mistake. Mistakes are how we learn. So when a child makes a mistake, the best thing to say is, I am so proud of you because you tried. You put effort to make that happen. So what I call it is praise for effort. And then you can sit down and then demystify and talk about what mistake and ask them, how do you feel? You feel that bothers you? Do you feel you're bad? Well, you're not. I make mistakes all the time. You've got to let them see you make mistakes. So also, you've been teaching your child about wait time. Let them talk with you. Watch them talk using conversation with others in the community. Don't add into their conversation. And if the other person doesn't quite understand your child, let the other person and your child figure out how to communicate. Because unfortunately, I'm a parent, we're not going to be here forever. So also ask your child, what do you think? So a child will say to me, Miss Rettie, can I do such and such? Or should I do this? And I just look at them and say, no, what do you think? I put it right back onto the child. And really, most every time, the child is able to problem solve and come up with a plan. And then they get praised for effort. It's awesome. Okay, and establish routines to build habits. So let's look at just hygiene. And I'm sure you've probably already heard all of this, but just to restate it, in the bathroom, have a picture of your child taped on the mirror of him or her brushing the teeth. And it might say morning and night. That's a habit that they need to create. They can't go out in the big world and try to get a job if they're not clean. So that kind of approach is supportive, and it creates a habit that lasts for a lifetime. All right, now the home life. It doesn't matter what age, morning routine. You should have a morning routine. Don't plan the morning routine for your child. Your child and you should sit down and write out your morning routine. You only need 3 to 4 things max. What do you think you need to do first thing in the morning? Okay, write that down. The child writes it down. What do you think you need to do next? Okay, write that down. Where are we going to put this to remind you what you need to do? Okay, you chose here. Let me take a picture of you doing those things, and we'll put pictures up with your schedule for the morning. You see how that is pushing the ownership onto the child. The ownership, the child has to have ownership to make those decisions. That helps. Same thing you'll do for chores. How do you do a chore? How do you vacuum? Where should you get corners? The corners. How do you do that? Ask. Take pictures of your child doing it and just talk about, look how cool you are. You can do all these things. Grocery list. They should make the grocery list. They should go help pick out the items. Teach them to cook. Let me give you an example of this. I felt this is just happening this year. A young boy, just first time in a middle school setting, and he had always been in life skills, has no business always being in life skills. But we've gotten him out quite a bit into general education and resource for pullout. One of the ways we did that was the parents took videos of their son. He cooks a lot, and he does it by himself. Nobody helps. He turns on the stove. It's a gas stove. He adjusts the temperature, everything. He's doing everything on his own. His parents just always encouraged that. When we showed those videos to the school team and said, we need to change his schedule of services, they changed the schedule of services page to include more time in general ed. You've got to push your child to do the things that you're doing for him or her, and start encouraging the child to do it on their own through the use of pictures and planning with, but not for. Health and wellness, same thing. How many of your kids know what medication they're taking and why they're taking it? Sometimes they don't know. What is wellness? What is wellness for a female versus a male? Completely different. So those things should be shared and work together. Safety. What does safety really mean? We have cyber today that is unbelievable with all that's going on. Lots of good books out there about cyberbullying and cyber safety. Do that with your child, not for. In your home, your child and you should have a calming place that's just for you or just for your child. 2 separate places. And when there is a time that your child is getting anxious and the sensory system and the amygdala's off and he's complaining or she's complaining and they're whining and you've just had enough, 2 things can happen. You can look at your child and say, I'm taking a break. I'm going to you call it whatever you want, but I'm going to my calming place. I can't talk about this anymore. And you can take a picture of yourself in your calming place and you can hold that picture up. My turn for my calming place. You can also say, I think it's time you take a calming break too. And the child would have already picked out their calming place. That should be something they chose, a place they chose and what it looks like. Typically you want low lighting, not a lot of stimulus on the walls, and soft pillows and maybe a weighted blanket to help with feeling that hug. So I promise you that you push your children to the point that they can do. And that really does make sense. They can do. And you've got to push the educators that they can do, because your child will reach adulthood and your child has to have the skills. And if we're all doing this for the child all these years, then the child reaches adulthood without any skills. So while you're doing that, keep your faith. Know that what you're doing is purposeful. and try to find some harmony and balance. So some of the strategies: visual schedule for your child, social scripts. I can't put social stories. Social stories is a copyright name by Carol Gray. Carol Gray is wonderful with teaching about social stories. Social stories teach a skill set. And I don't believe in using animated pictures. I really think it should be using the pictures of the child. So let's say you want to teach how to wash hands. You're going to take a picture of what's first and you use that language. What's next, what's last, you take pictures and you put it in a little, load the pictures, print them, and talk with your child. This is how you wash your hand. Often social scripts are so powerful that sometimes the child reads them once or twice and they don't need them, and the skill is set. Role play, have your child practice with you. Practice all the steps. Take a video. I did a lot of video in school, showing the child what the child can do. Videos, lots of research on that. Videos show what you should not do, what can't be done. Because they'll remember that. You want to put what can be done, and then praise for effort. Another thing we talk about, we do this at school, and I'm hoping you guys do this at home too. So if you know a certain place that you have to go, it's going to be a challenge. We call that front load. Today, we're going to go to wherever. It sometimes frightens your amygdala. You get upset there. Your sensory system is overloaded, and your child should know about that. We will plan for exiting to a safe place. So if we're at Walmart, let's say Walmart, and it's a very loud place, and you want to go, but you get overwhelmed with all that stimulus and all that noise, what you can do is plan what is before you go, and then keep that same plan. Going to Walmart, my plan is I can go out and sit in a car and take a break, or I can say I need to go home. So and don't let your child go sit by themselves. It's unfortunately that this takes effort on you, and I get that, but when they have a plan for safety, sometimes they don't ever need to exit anymore because they know they're not stuck. That's the amygdala. It feels like it's stuck, fight, flight, or freeze. But if you say you've got a plan, you're going to be safe, you're okay, that child sometimes that keeps the amygdala calmer. Praise for effort, PFE. Whoop. Okay. One other thing I think we need to talk about is when you're looking at the IEP, you should just download or cut and paste just the IEP goals. And you should occasionally take data on that yourself at home. When you go to an IEP meeting, they're giving you all this information. You need to come back with, well, my data shows this. Here it is. All right. And then it says journal your child's growth. You do this with your child. I know it says your, but it really has to be you're doing this with your child. Hey, when you started school this year, you were reading at a level D. Now you're reading at a level G. That is huge. You're awesome. We never say those things to the child. So, and share the journal with your child, right? Attend a ARD meeting or 504 plan prepared with your data. Ask your child, what do you need to be successful? As young as first grade, even kindergarten, they can help give you insight to what their needs are. Videotape your child's statement. Sometimes if your child says, I really need this, I've had it where we're in an ARD meeting and the staff say, oh, he's fine, he's not saying anything. And then I've had the parent videotape the child saying, well, when in class, this scares me and I really need this. And the team is like surprised. And so then they plan for what this child's asking. All right, and then videotape to demonstrate a need. So when you're going to show that there's a need in a certain place and you want to share it with the team, you can show, like for instance, I have a case coming up here soon where the OT says the child can take off the lid of a bottle all by herself. She cannot. And so mom has got a video that she will share. Or you can have your child write a statement. They have to learn these self-advocacy pieces. They have to be part of that IEP. There's nothing wrong with having an IEP. I should have been on one when I was a child. Sincerely, I struggled. Have your child begin attending the planning portion of the ARD. You can do that. All right. One of the best books that you can read and help use to navigate, is From Emotions to Advocacy by Pete Wright. And he's wonderful. You just have to Google wrightslaw.com and you will find a huge amount of information that is incredibly useful. As I said earlier, we are emotional human beings. And when you're talking about your child, it's even more so emotional. The amygdala is going off. And I understand all of that. But when you're in a meeting, if you're prepared with data and videos or whatever else it is you need, that helps you stay calm. I know what to say in this meeting, because those meetings can be very overwhelming. I've been doing this my entire adult life, and they're overwhelming for me. So because you want a certain outcome. But I plan for all meetings with parents. We come out with an outline and we get out there together and share that outline. Pete Wright, great resource for you. The human brain, it's wonderful, but it's complex and it learns through emotional channels. If your child is feeling safe, they can trust. If they feel safety and trust, they will regulate. They'll stay calmer and they'll be able to access social and academic. Tremendous amount of research is out there on when we are anxious and always under stress, it is really hard to learn. It affects our attention and our memory. So when you're planning with your child for home, for an outing, or for school, keep that information. You have to help this child understand that he or she needs to feel safe, to build trust, and to regulate. And when you're in the IEP meetings, you say, I want to know how you're helping my child feel safe. And my child's here. Roger, what do you need to feel safe? And he'll speak, or she'll speak, whomever. Okay? I know I'm going through a lot fast. Remember that all communication must be in writing. Email is the best. You talk to somebody on the phone, email back. Say, thank you for talking to me today at 3 o'clock. We discussed, and there you go. Build your child's team. You can learn more about that through person-centered planning, through family to family. Review assessments, the IEP, the PLAF, that's the present level of academic functional performance and goals. Look at that. You should have that before, at least 5 days, if not 3 to 4 days before, so you can prepare and you share your data and the one-page profile. Record all meetings, all right? The PLAF, accommodations versus modifications. Accommodation is just to support you, repeated review, something like that. Preferential seating, speaking slower, chunking, those are accommodations. Modifications when we actually change the curriculum. And so it's not on level. All right. And goals should be data-driven. I'm sure you've heard all of this. And then who's your confidant at school? Who's the teacher or the educator or the person that you have bonded with? Keep that person in the loop and keep working with that person. Ask questions all the time. Is it hard as a teacher to try to answer all these questions and do all this? Yes. Is it hard to be a parent? Yes. Is it hard to be a child with a disability? Yes. So we're a team. We just do it. Take notes during the meeting and make sure that you understand what's going on with the minutes and the deliberations. The minutes or deliberations are one and the same, are where there's no box to check for statements you've made. I'm asking that you make sure my son has a safe place and that my son trusts. Please put that in the minutes, because there's no box to check for that. Anything that you feel is important that you've said, this is what I do. We want that in the minutes, and we'll wait for you to do that. And then you wait, and then we say back, can you read back what we said? And sometimes they type it in the way they want and not what we said. We have to correct them. I am a proponent of public ed. Don't get me wrong. I'm not bashing. I just know in every relationship, even in my own with my children and my husband, we have to check each other. So it's okay. It's not meant to be negative. All right, reading. What is your child's reading level? what program is used, how often is instruction. Often we don't ask those questions. You've got to do that, and you've got to have that tracking on your own data too. There is a difference between reading intervention versus a reading program. Reading program is what typically developing readers do in elementary school. Reading intervention is where a specific research-based intervention should be provided to your child. This is a huge deficit in Texas, because often I'll work with an adult, or a secondary child in high school, 17, 18, and they want to say that at 18 they stopped doing the reading teaching. Absolutely not. Our children learn to read, and it may take longer. If you want your child to access post-secondary education, there are so many colleges now ready for children with disabilities. They should be reading at a third grade level to fourth grade level. Why would the school districts in Texas say we don't do any more academics after they graduate with their foundations plan and they go into the 18+ program? I do not agree with that, and I've stated that vocally in many places. And so most of the students I work with have reading intervention, and then you've got to know what the intervention is. Is the teacher trained in that reading intervention? Look at the dyslexia handbook. Google it through TEA, Texas Education Agency Service. That will define what an intervention program looks like. The classroom should have limited clutter. And you see that the tent they should have a safe place and maybe a movement place. There should be less, this year, that not having much on the wall is the best thing, because kids will look at what's going on. Less is calming. So this corner right here is much better. You see, they just have a few things. There's windows. It's calming. Natural light in the home. Reduce the noise. Solid carpet. Throw rug. Curtains should be solid. A calming sound like a fish tank. Low lighting. Calming chairs that help kind of make your body feel like a beanbag. A couch. Be careful for color. There are sensory-friendly colors. Sherwin-Williams has a whole line of sensory-friendly paint. Red is too hard for some kids. And then a calming, safe place. Outside, allow for some movement and calming. Extracurricular. Think of your child as your child. You push them so they can. They can do chess club. They could do a culture club. Future Farmers of America. ROTC, join scouts, church event, camp, volunteer, animal care. Your child can do this. All right, college, Americans with Disability Act. Every college is required, mandated by law to allow for accommodations in the classroom. So your professor has to follow the accommodations. Only 17% of the kids take advantage of the ADA accommodations. And then many of them fall out of college because they're embarrassed. If you're doing this while your child is young and they know how accommodations help, they will have a better chance at doing it when they go to college. A 2-year college, trade school, whatever. So many great things are coming up. That link there gives you some good college resources. All right, internship for employment. And we talked about that. The state mandates that employment readiness should start at age 14. Consider sensory in the workplace. This link, ONET, is wonderful. It's free and it will help your child determine what their strengths are, what their interests are. Casey, life skills, another resource, excellent. Your child can push so they can. All right, I think I ended right on time. And if you have questions, now what I'd like to find out, Hazel, should I exit out of this so that I can see the Zoom and the chats too? Because I can't see any of that.
Yeah, sure. Sure, you can do that. Currently there are no questions in the chat. If anyone wants to ask any questions, feel free to do so. Now's the time. I just want to say thank you so much, Robin, for sharing everything with us. I know it was a lot of information.
It is. And I worry about that, you know, I really do. But I want you to know that
Can you stop
information is
sharing your
out there
screen?
and it's a,
Yeah,
what?
stop sharing your screen.
Oh my goodness, there it is. Thank you, dear. Yay. Is that better?
Yes, perfect.
Okay,
And
so I
welcome
know
to
that I
those of us
gave
who
you,
joined us. A few of
okay,
us,
yeah, thank
a few
you.
people joined later. Thank you.
I saw that, yeah. I know that I have given you a ton of information. And I sometimes when I'm in meetings, it bothers me when they do that. But then I go home and look it up. I could give you a little bit, but all of it's so important. And I just want you to know that you know your child best. So if you have something, an area, if I said something that says, wow, I didn't know I could do that, go research it, and then you'll be all set. All right. Should I start looking at the questions?
So no one has asked questions yet. I did post the link to the survey, and I also shared the flyer and the registration link for our next session on March 27th. But I'm surprised that no one has questions. If you want to private message them to Hazel or myself, feel free.
Okay.
Oh, I have a question. Go, Priscilla. You can unmute yourself or you can type it, whatever is easiest for you, Priscilla.
You can talk. You can also talk, Priscilla. Yeah. I'm fine.
Right. Well, first, Robin, I think you really did a great presentation to us. It's really a lot of valuable information for us. So my boy, Paul, he right now in the stage, actually this coming fall, the school want to place him to the 18+ program. We are thinking like, what kind of, I think Paul's reading skill probably close to 3rd grade, like between 2 to 3 grade-ish, So do you have any, like in Greater Houston area specifically, is there any place or, some place that we can provide, additional support him to help him to improve the reading skill? And also, we would like Paul, because he's pretty interested in like office work, computer-ish. So we would like him to continue some higher education, some program, but I really hesitate. I know there are a lot of choices, but I really hesitated to let him go outside of Houston. So do you have any like a specific program, just kind of, in our Greater Houston area, you can just introduce to us for the kids, like, after 18 years old? Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, I had a little trouble hearing, but I think what I got is your child in an 18+ program?
And right now, he's the last year. He's a senior in the college. I mean, in high school.
Okay.
In Blair High School. So this coming fall, he's going to be in the 18+ program.
Okay. And I don't need to know what district or whatever, but typically these districts are, and I'm not sure I'm answering all your questions, so you might want to type some of it in there, but because I am hearing impaired. So typically what happens is they say at 18, you have completed all your academic requirements, okay?
Right.
Foundations or, at the minimum, you've got the 20, I think it's 22 hours, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
What I typically do is say, I need to know what my child's reading level is. I have to have, and if they say, well, we don't really haven't taught reading in a while, and, he seems to be doing fine. And then it's in writing too. No. And if you're in an IEP meeting, no, I want it in the minutes. I want to have a district reading instructor come in and do a reading evaluation. Mm-hmm. In that reading evaluation, you're going to have words per minute that they can read. So that's called the fluency. How many mistakes do they correct their mistakes? They're going to have the level, whether it's on 3rd grade, 10th grade, you know, or first grade, and comprehension. All right. And so you're going to want to know that. And your reason for wanting to know that is twofold. My child's ready to go into the adult world. And if my child's not reading at least a 3rd or 4th grade, my child's going to have difficulty getting a job or accessing post-secondary education. And the law says here, the purpose of IDEA is that my child has the right, your educators have to help get my child because you have the right to access post-secondary education and employment. And if he can't read at a level that is, so the newspapers and stuff are printed at a 4th grade. The text is typically around a 4th grade level, 4th to 5th grade level, somewhere in there. Because that's what most people can read.
Right.
So,
Robin, just excuse me a little bit.
Okay, wait, say that again.
Yeah, I said, sorry, interrupt you. I need one clarification. Here you mentioned the reading for 4th or 5th grade. Do you mean is the reading comprehension or it's just reading itself?
So what she asked is it that the students are required to comprehend at a 4th or 5th grade reading level, or they just read the information?
Comprehend. That's a very, very good question. Yes, because some children can read all the way up to, you know, anything. That's hyperlexia.
But they don't understand it.
And but if they don't understand.
Robin, just to answer part of what Priscilla asked that you may not have known or may not have heard, because I'm like you with the hearing loss. Welcome to my world. Priscilla, yes, Robin is spot on that you can have these evaluations done. And just because your son is going into an 18 to 22 program, everything still applies. All of the laws still apply. So what I would do is ask for that reading evaluation, and that would be great. And then another parent wrote in, I requested Region 4 to access for training for reading by design, but I was refused because I did not have a teacher certification. Well, that's really frustrating. Now I'm at a loss of how to find affordable training to help my son. So if anyone is aware of Linda Mood Bell, Robin, I don't know if you're familiar.
Okay, Linda Mood Bell is incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, $20,000-$30,000 for.
Well, but you can do a little bit. Yeah, I think they have a little. Yeah, I don't think everything is.
And I love them. The director there is marvelous people, good program. Right. Let me back up a little bit. So what the district should do when you get that reading assessment, if it shows that your child is reading at least 4th grade level, then you can say, okay, you make the determination with your child. Do you want to continue to have reading intervention all the way through till age 22? And if the child says, yeah, I want to learn to read more, then you continue, put that in the ARD meeting and you want it. If your child isn't reading at that level, now that's what you want. You say that you come back to the ARD meeting and you say, I'm requesting reading intervention, not a reading program. And I want my child, it says here in IDEA, you got to get, it's hard. And they're going to tell you no 1,000,000 times. And that goes right back to the other question with your child is struggling. Hang on, chat. Struggling to get your son who learned systematically into a reading program. Our district denies. Yeah. Wow. How did they denies children with other disabilities from acting? Yes, they do all the time. They act as though, well, and I'm telling you the truth as an educator. When I did resource and reading pull-out programs, this is what I was told. Well, we don't really have to teach reading instruction because they're intellectually disabled. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
How are you going to get that? You have to do it. You have to have your child, your son, help advocate. It's really overwhelming for them too. It's overwhelming for you. If they deny you something, I can tell you all the legal things. You're supposed to put, it's called prior written notice, PWN, whatever. It means that if they say they're not going to give you the systematic reading intervention for your child and the way your child learns to read, they're supposed to give you this written notice that says, we're not going to do this, but we're going to do that. You've made a request, so they have to do something closely related to your request. Now, here's another step that many people don't like to do. And I work with families and okay. Texas is still on the radar from the federal government. We have been denying kids reading and special education services. We were fined $233 million. And so we're still in the hot seat and they're still denying. The only way OSEP, the Office of Special Education Services, the federal government, will know that we're still suffering here in this state is when we file a TEA, Texas Education Agency complaint. You've got to file a complaint. I want the complaint to be favorable for you and your child, but sometimes the TEA says, well, they're doing a certain program, it's fine. It's still put TEA, on Texas Education Agency, on the radar for the federal government. When I was teaching in, I can say where I was, Cy-Fair High School, I resigned mid-year because they were doing that same thing. They didn't have a reading program. They didn't have it. This is 2007. And I came back that's when I first started this. I couldn't continue to work in that environment where they were not supporting the children. I came back I resigned in December, came back in January. We filed a complaint for one of my students on 3 areas, and we got 2 areas completely that we asked for. And then on the 3rd issue, we got a reduced support, but we made a difference. It's the only way I was going to get it done. It is uncomfortable for you to do that, but you have to do that. What does a reading intervention program really look like? Get on Texas Education Agency Dyslexia Handbook. And it'll tell you, I think it's on page 44, somewhere around there, what a true intervention looks like. Reading program intervention. What areas should it cover? Write that down, keep that handy, show your child, teach your child. Often if we could just ask our kid, are you getting these things? We'd know. Never say the word dyslexia handbook, because they'll say, well, your child, they're intellectually disabled. They can't have dyslexia. Yeah, they can. And so it doesn't matter if it's dyslexia or not. What you're doing is a reading intervention program should have these 5 to 6 categories that you're teaching reading. You don't have to say handbook, but get the language that you need to use during the ARD meeting from that handbook. Does that make sense? Did I say that clearly?
And I think that they can always email you, and that might be a little bit easier, Robin.
Absolutely.
Because it's a lot of information.
It
and
is.
Priscilla, I encourage you, and another parent had sent me a message with the same issue. I encourage you, and Robin, why don't you put your email in the chat box?
Sure.
Because in case they missed it on your slide. But it is really important. And I'm certainly not trying to sell Linda Mood Bell services. Yes, they are expensive, but I know there are different facets of the program that might be less expensive and possibly affordable. But I agree, the school district should be doing their share. And there are some that are not. And it is wrong. And it bothers me terribly.
Yeah. And in Jenna's, it's really bothering me because I see what she's saying. They denied this. And when they say something that they deny, you say, I want you to put that in the minutes. Put down what you just said in the minutes.
Yeah, or send me a
letter.
letter.
You should be recording your meeting too. But you say, I want you to put down what you just said. You just told me, Mrs. Smith, we do not do this because this and that. Please put that in there. I'll wait. I've written it in my minutes. I've got it in mine, and it's on the recording. But I want you to put it. And they don't like that. And then they'll also try to fudge it and change it up a bit. So you have to catch it. But here's the thing. If you didn't get PWN, a prior written notice about, no, we're not doing, but we're going to do this instead. Right there is a procedural violation. And you can file through Texas Education Agency for that procedural violation because you don't know then what your child's getting for reading. It's so frustrating.
So there was another question, and I don't know if you know the answer to this. I do, but if you don't, no worries. Nina had asked a great question about, oh, Hazel, go ahead. God, I'm so sorry, Hazel. Did you want to ask the
No,
question? I'm so used to doing
no
these.
worries.
I'm not used to having a
It's
partner.
okay.
My
It's okay.
apologies.
No worries. I also just wanted to add on the literacy bit. I actually was working in a place. I'm originally from Singapore. I'm not from the US at all. And I was working back home in a place where they use the Linda Mood method. So I am familiar with it myself. I was not ever formally trained, but I am aware of how they progress through the sequences in terms of like teaching. So if any parents have any questions about like literacy in terms of just finding resources, like feel free to email me as well. I can help you to like find resources, at least like the free resources that like are appropriate
Yeah.
in terms of like
Some
helping
of
your
them,
child reach the levels. I know Linda Mood, it's really
That's great.
expensive. They're great, but they're really expensive.
Mhm.
But yeah,
one of the best and more affordable reading intervention companies is the Texas Family Literacy. And that is run by Dr. Eldo Bergman. He is a former pediatric neurologist, so he knows the brain. And in the 80s, his children, gifted, superior IQs, could not learn to read, and they were in HISD. Dr. Bergman is one of the first that took HISD to court over the reading. He stopped his pediatric, and I'll put his name in here. He stopped his pediatric practice, dove into trying to figure out why his sons, there's a lot, you Google his name, you're going to have a lot of things come up about him. Anyway, he visited Linda Mood Bell, the actual people. He traveled all over trying to figure out Dr. Sally Shaywitz, the Harvard professor that wrote Overcoming Dyslexia. She references his work. He did MRI studies of reading before intervention and then post reading intervention. You can see where the left side, it's the Broca's area on the left side, named after the doctor. And a child that hasn't had intervention, it wasn't illuminated as it should have been. And the right side was more illuminated on the MRI. That's pre. Then he did the reading intervention that he designed and implemented it, and the student had instruction for a while, and then they went back and did an MRI, and you saw this left side being much more active, and the child was reading. He published all of that, and Dr. Sally Shaywitz references. Now, Eldo Bergman, Dr. Bergman, I've worked with him for years. I'm absolutely in love with the man. He's up there, but I think his sons teach the reading program, and several people, one in Katy is going to get certified in his program. There's a person in the Woodlands that's certified in his program, and he's much more affordable. But Dr. Eldo Bergman, the Texas Reading, I think it was the Texas Reading Institute when I first met him, and then I think someone told him to change it. So it's now called Family Literacy. I've been here. That is and what I do now, I don't know if you're familiar with the fact that you're allowed to, if you get, so on Jenna's thing, like if they denied something, or let's say they did do, any one of you get them to do a reading assessment. And it looks like, wow, my child's really been struggling. They've never had the reading that they needed, and you're struggling with what they've got. Or the team says, they're fine, or whatever it is. You just don't agree with the assessment. You can get what's called an IEE. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but IEE, an individual education evaluation. And the IEE is good for a year. And the districts usually grant them, because if they don't grant them, they have to take you to court, and they don't want to spend the money or time for that. They just pay the few $100s for another assessment. And then so we use Dr. Bergman's team for these reading evaluations, and he's amazing. He'll put in there, this child has dyslexia, and they may have an IQ that's a little bit lower than what's expected, but he writes it in there. So just be mindful that he's can sometimes have a I'm public. I don't want to say he's hard to follow sometimes. He's so brilliant. He is so brilliant that sometimes he's hard to follow. Just put up with him and listen, and you'll learn. But he is the one I took my daughter to in 2004. Amazing work he did with her. Amazing. He saved her life. So anyway.
Robin, Nina had asked a great question, and I posted the link. She was looking about a gym for our kids to play in, and I know about space therapy gym at the Beltway and I-10. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
Okay. Yeah, what activities, places? Well, there have been, but see now that
you have to check with
COVID is here
and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully by summer
Yeah.
things are going to open up more. But they had
Mhm.
reached out to me, the space gym, and they offer therapy and everything. But I think they're even having like free time for our kids, because those sensory gyms can be fabulous for our kids.
Which gym are you talking about, Judy?
Space therapy gym. It's at I-10 in the Beltway. And I don't think it's terribly overpriced. I don't think so. I don't know for sure. You would have to check with them.
And Nina, if it's your adult son, maybe your adult son could go volunteer there
Mhm.
and start, getting to know, and you have to work with, you don't have to, but if Texas Workforce does support right, goes in and helps create the volunteer opportunity, and then let's say they like him, and then he can work out there and find his place if he likes, if exercise is his thing.
There were a couple of people that private messaged me, and I messaged you back. So if there's anything that I did not answer, please do let me know. It's really unfortunate that so many of these programs, they do charge. They are not like Family to Family Network, where we're a nonprofit. I can tell you that if you hire Robin to help you in your ARD meetings, it is well worth it. She is so reasonably priced, and I don't think you'd regret it. I think you would be very, very happy with the results. Robin is much more affordable than other people out there. Everybody has a different price point, and Robin's is very, very reasonable. Not that one is good and one is not so good, but Robin is very, very reasonable, and we love you for that, Robin.
Thank you. I just get it. That's why I don't want to, my kids are grown up.
Mhm.
I'm at a place where I've done this way for a long time. I can't change my sister's life, but I like to help other kids in their life now. So, but yeah, it's hard. It's hard to navigate this whole system. And I know that I just threw everything at you, but hopefully you'll take out what's most important for your child, and then you'll research it. And if you have any questions, just let me know, or Judy or Hazel, and we can get back to you. But just do what Temple Grandin's mother did. Do what Sean Pether's mother did. And I know you already are, but keep the emotions at bay. Take the data with you in the meeting and say, I'm not going to agree with that. And if you have to file TEA, I have so many people say they're worried that they're going to retaliate against your child. Teachers don't retaliate. They don't. Well, sometimes they do, in a sense that, but not on the child. I mean, it's rare when you have that. And I can't say that teachers don't, because it is rare when somebody would retaliate towards a child. What I do see, though, is sometimes when a teacher feels a child's not learning the way they keep thinking they're doing the right thing for them, they get frustrated with the kid. I hate that, because they probably aren't teaching the right way, but you can't. So anyway, the more we have people filing, as uncomfortable it is, the more the state is put on a radar. And I think also too, right to the Department of Education in DC, right to the federal government. We're in a tough place in Texas.
We sure are.
We need to do better.
We sure do.
And I feel like with COVID, yes. And I feel like with COVID, this is the time now to get pushy because parents are seeing now, I can't tell you how many families have said to me, oh my gosh, this online virtual learning, I did not know my child couldn't do this, that, or the other. And they were telling me all these years my child could do. So I feel like we're in a good place right now.
So Hazel, did you want to wrap up with the survey and our next class?
Yes. Yeah, if there are no more questions, thank you everyone for coming here today. Thank you, Robin, so much for imparting your wisdom and your knowledge, and it's always really valued. I think Judy has put in the link for the survey.
And I'll post it again at the bottom.
Okay, that we'll greatly appreciate if you would like to fill that out. And I believe that she has also sent the link, which I'm just going to show you anyway. So this is the next talk that we're having. Is going to be a panel discussion. Our lovely Robin will be back, and she'll be here in 2 weeks to share with us. And we're going to talk about transitions and looking at the transition process. And so we also have Jennifer Chang and Ken Monfort joining us that day as well. They're both amazing speakers. And so if you're like, you can register at this link, or you can always drop me an email if you have any issues or questions. And we look forward to hopefully seeing you in 2 weeks as well, and that this was beneficial to everyone. We'll also just wanted to repeat for some people who weren't here earlier, we'll be sending you the slides as well as summary notes and translations in a couple of weeks. It's been taking us some time, unfortunately, to summarize and translate. So just be patient with us, but we'll definitely get those to you within possibly about 2 weeks. All right. Thank you everyone for participating. And that's all we have for today.
Okay, thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Robin,
you take care of yourself
so much. We loved having you, and we look forward to seeing
you on the 27th.
We look forward
to it. Thank you guys. Take good care.
Thank you, Robin. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hazel, if you could stay on. Hi, Abe. Bye, Abe.
Hi, Judy. Bye-bye.
Judy, do you want to stop?
Thank you.